1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Hello again. 1 second after recording that other thing. So, alright, before I get into Torture of Chitzney, I got this little thing about Volodya and Dima, apparently. It was Mita and letter, but actually I think Dima and Mita might be the same thing. It's kind of like Dick and Rick, you know? Same nickname for the same name. Or different nickname for the same name. Anyway, what was I gonna say? So, I have this story, I literally wrote it like 4 times. 1 time was like a comedy, the other 3 times were like serious stories. I was trying so hard to make this story happen. And basically it was supposed to be like my own version of True Blood, like basically just like werewolves, vampires, every kind of creature you can imagine, demons, angels, blah blah blah, stuff we used to roleplay as, in a story, and it was gonna be my own version of that shit. But it never came to light, because for some reason I could never get past the first like 10 pages, no matter how hard I try, so I don't know, whatever. But this, I'm supposed to be reading Torture of Chitzney, which is this right here. You cannot read that it says Torture of Chitzney because it's extremely faded, I think, but that's what it says. I remember, and it just, I don't know, it looks like it got water on it or something. I don't remember what's in there, but just for the intro, okay? Pretend like this is one of the, like a preview before a movie, okay? That this is literally only 2 pages, and I just want to see what's in here because it was in the back of the notebook of the Kink Farm story, so we'll see what it said, and then later on I'll probably get to like the other incarnations of what it was, and I'll read them, and we can compare and shit, whatever. I don't know where the beginning is, let me see. Well, see, I don't know, but alright, I'm gonna start on this side. It might have been written backwards. No, I don't think so, because it doesn't reach the end of the page on that side. Alright, I'm just gonna go for it, man. And you know what's funny? These 2 main characters, Dima and Volodya, they obviously have Russian names, but they are supposed to be aliens. And there's no reason, this is coming from the author here, so you can trust it. They do not have Russian names for any type of fucking political reason, okay? They have Russian names because I was studying Russian in college at the time, and I just wanted to give them Russian names because I thought they sounded cool. But they're actually supposed to be aliens from another planet, so I'm assuming that they're fucking, or actually maybe not even another planet, I think another dimension or something, or parallel universe or something. So even more off the course, further and yet closer than ever before. But what was I gonna say? But, I think in their home world, they actually have different names, which may be beyond human comprehension or whatever. But when they come to Earth, as you'll see, I don't know, they have to adopt Earth names. And their names just happen to be Russian names, even though they are definitely in the United States. Their names are Russian names because I was in Russian class at the time, okay? It doesn't mean shit politically. It's just my appreciation for a Russian nickname system, which I think is cool. Anyway, moving along. Oh my god, I'm almost at 4 minutes. What the fuck? I don't even know. Anyway, here we go. Translated from alien language. It doesn't say that, but it just says translated, but that's what it means. Translated from alien language. Here we were, smoking the best flowers in the whole East, under the canvas of the tent, warm. We came in summer, sweating, dragging ourselves and the horses, but here now we felt like kings. We were drunk, the smoke filled us up and filled up the tent. Hot boxing. This is not what I remember. I remember them starting in like a fucking battlefield, but okay. I think we have earned it, the drunkenness, this warm heat of the climate, even now, when the sun has long gone down from the sky. I know how they feel. This is how I feel right now. I'm pretty hot and sticky. Someone is dancing around a fire outside. You don't need no fire and heat like that. We have all come so far, but if anyone can do it, it's us that can do it. We can do it all. We can do everything. Everywhere we go, Volodya bows the smoke. Oh, blows the smoke out of his mouth. He looks at me. Those dark eyes, the brown hair, like a tiger. I love him. Good heaven, how our eyes sparkle, like the goddess dew on these flowers when they're fresh. Imagine you could understand any language, he said dreamingly. He looks at me from the sparkly eye corner. Go anywhere and understand, and have them understand you, no matter who. I laughed aloud. I couldn't stand it anymore. My corporeal body is too full of warmth, of food, of wine, and flowers. Oh, love. I rolled over and threw my arms around him. Volodya. I purred his name, Volodya. I think it's funny how they call it flower. Like, that's like what the fucking newfangled dispensaries call weed. Slowly my eyes opened. Heaven, hell, my body. I am sore. I don't know how long I've been sleeping. 3 days? A week? Or has it been only hours? I went to sleep sick. They have all been getting sick, little by little. Volodya doesn't see it, but I see it. Goddamn this foreign place. We should go home. Volodya thinks too much about the future sometimes, not enough about what is here now. What you can hold in your hands, feel and touch and talk to. Someone's crying. Is it Gessie? There is no need to cry, especially not if it's for me. I'll be alright. I want to say it and comfort them, but I can't even see who it is. Oh, he's like dying or something. I can hardly see it all, hardly open my eyes. I'm too sore, too sick, but I will live. I'm not going to die here. I'm not afraid of that. Volodya, can you hear me? They come eventually. They come to tell me I'm dead. Don't try and convince me. I'm not. But where's my voice? Where's my will to move? I can't. Where's Volodya? Where's my brother? Oh, they're brothers this time? I thought they were lovers. Maybe he's just saying brother, like, as a term of closeness. Leave me be. I'm not dead. I'm not dead. They picked me up, and what can I do? I'm not dead. I'm alive. Volodya, tell them. Volodya. Last of translation. That's a little bit, Tales from the Crypt-ish. Like, there's that one episode. I think there's actually a few episodes about people being dead, but they're, like, still conscious or whatever, and they're like, I'm not dead yet! You know? Shit like that. Hey, hey you, out of the road! There was a furious shouting from the voice of a man, almost drowned out by the deafening blares of his horn. Dima was running before he was even awake. Weariness dragged his heavy eyelids down, but the instinct of survival, more primal than fear itself, since he was still too dazed to be afraid. That primal feeling moved his feet. Across the hard road he ran, clinging onto Volodya's hand for all he had. Cars and trucks zoomed around them. Man, it's a busy street. The bright headlights would have blinded them even if their eyes were not stuck shut like newborn kittens. And then suddenly they could feel the change. Dirt and grass under their bare feet. Oh man, they're barefoot too. I think they're actually naked. Tall grass all up around them, brushing against the skin of the men. They didn't slow. Not that now that they were beginning to wake, the fear and confusion was setting in, the cold of the still air around them, from which the tall grass offered little protection. Where were they? How did they get here? Were they only dreaming? What had happened to where they were? Volodya ran faster. A moment ago, Dima had been dragging him, but now he drove ahead, tugging on his thin companion's wrist, pulling them both through the field. Little by little, their eyes opened. Where they had been before, where they came from, faded quickly from the highlights of their minds in light of this desperate situation. There was not much to see now. As they began to peer around themselves, all that met their eyes were the tall stalks of thin but dense grass, shining pale gray in the moonlight. The honks of the cars were no more. Now it was only the constant growling hum behind them, in place of the old insect sounds of the jungle. It's so funny how, like, supposedly this is like a busy road, but they're supposed to be in like a farmland area. Another farm, of course. But yeah, at last they slowed their footsteps to a walk, panting heavily, their hair all on end. It was dark here. The moonlight shone down on them, turning their sandy skin into the white of corpses. And every scar, every scratch or skin patch on their naked bodies stood out like purple bruises in the cold. Oh, I think I read this already. They looked at one another. Now, at last, was the time for thinking. Volodya could see the way Dima's chest dropped when he... Yeah, I read this before. When his breath left his lungs and turned to mist in the air. They looked around in the dark, around themselves. Dima's eyes, which in the sun were blue, now looked as washed out as flesh. What country is this? Volodya wondered out loud, the words he spoke. Alright. My cats love rolled up paper. Alright. I'm looking down on it, camera. How many? Oh, I'm already at like 11:30. Let's see how far I get in this Torture of Chitzney. For some reason, I wrote it backwards in the notebook. The Torture of Chitzney. It had rained all... Now, welcome to our feature presentation. I should have said that. The Torture of Chitzney, our feature presentation. That other shit wasn't part of the same story. It was just random shit, okay? So here we go. Let's get started. It had rained the day before and all through the night, so that by now, even though the sky was cloudless and the sun was clear, large puddles of still muddy water swamped the curbs, and passing cars and trucks threw up huge splashes. Shane, feeling disgusted with himself, left the house to go walking. He shoved his hands in his blue jean pockets and kicked the door shut behind him. At first his eyes remained on the ground, but he could only stay that way for so long before peering up around the town, squinting into the sky. His eyes were the same color as the sky today, except a little bloodshot around the pale irises. But they were weak in the sun, so that on a clear day like this, he couldn't look up without squinting. And even then, when it became too bright, his vision was blurred. Everything seemed a little washed out and took on a hazy white aura, obscuring the outlines. Shane loved the smell of wet asphalt after the rain. It was still relatively early, only 9 or 10 in the morning. He gets up early, I'm still sleeping by that point. So traffic was light on the streets. That's not true. People are trying to get to work at that time. It should be rush hour. He could walk around the block and only see 1 or 2 vehicles in all directions. He must live in a fucking small town. That was not likely in the main street or shopping district. But here in the living district, with nothing but trailers and little houses and the occasional 7-Eleven, it didn't shock him. Especially not on a Saturday. He went a few blocks down and turned the corner. Man, I'm tired. Now this was the wide street, where he often saw old pickup trucks, rattling along with loads of hay in the beds. To one direction, a ways down, was a church. To the other direction was the dam, if he went down far enough. I think this is modeled after Santa Cruz. This might be from like 2008, 2007, I don't know, something around there. Sounds about right, but I don't remember it all. Shane headed for the dam. A ways down the street, there were a few vacant lots between buildings, spacing them out, filled with the usual dead grass, broken bottles, and half-torn down wire fencing. The last building, before the long stretch of no buildings at all, looked about 100 years old. It resembled a saloon from the ghost town, Southwestern Fame days. A two-story but narrow building which looked, especially at parts, like the wood boards had been nailed together by hand by a child. The upstairs windows, two which looked out over the street, were dusted over and empty-looking. Shane knew, though, this cracked little place was not abandoned. The lower floor on the weekdays was a warm, lighted, open room where dresses, loose pants and shirts, hats and scarves, and string jewelry and other assorted things were hung along the walls. They have clothes hanging on the walls, that's funny. Displayed on shelves and a few small tables. Sometimes the owner, from her contented spot behind the register table, put out a tape player and turned up soft music. Sometimes she was knitting or sewing, even as customers drifted in and out around her. Now when the door was locked up, Shane could see even from his distance that the sign was resting out front, beside the door. A stiff white board with the handmade treasures written on it in cursive painting. He was almost directly in front of the building now, walking slightly off the curb since the street was so empty. He was absent-minded, hands in his pockets, playing a little limping game where he would step on and off the curb with one foot and keep the other foot in the gutter. Strange, he realized suddenly. There was no water standing here. Maybe it had all dried up already, he thought, or maybe it just didn't collect here. There was a startling noise from above. Shane jolted and stopped where he stood and looked upwards, almost right above his head. One of the upstairs windows was opened wide. Translucent, sheet-like curtain shifted now and then in the passing breeze, and perched up there, sitting in the windowsill, was a slender, slightly fragile-looking teenager. The teenager was sitting sideways, back against one side of the window frame, toes touching the opposite side of the frame, knees up, arms wrapped loosely around them, relaxed. Shane put up a hand to shield his eyes from the stinging of the sun. But even then, any details were difficult to make out. How long had that window been open? He, too, had to wonder. He was used to always seeing it shut. Had it been open ever since he walked up? He hadn't been paying attention. The teenager was looking out at him, he realized, but with a blank expression. This kid was pale, with large eyes and long, matty blonde hair, which reached about chest-length. He sounds like Maury a little bit. Dressed in a white shirt with loose sleeves, like what Mexican women were sometimes pictured wearing in paintings. A pair of blue jeans tucked into boots, and on the teenager's head was a straw hat, the kind which was sold in the store downstairs. I waited for you, the kid said, in a voice which became faint, traveling down from the second story. It seemed, because Shane had to focus his ears hard to hear. He had doubts, sort of hopeful doubts, that this teenager was talking to him at all. What? Shane answered. I waited for you, the kid repeated, louder this time, shifting in the windowsill. The teenager's small hands moved from around the legs and settled back as the kid switched position to hang the legs out of the window. I knew you were coming. Shane blinked a few times, struck silent momentarily. His thoughts had been on the kid's voice, which was a little hoarse, but those thoughts were plowed away in a second, and then he caught himself and had to laugh it off. Oh, you mean you saw me coming, he replied. What a choice of words could do to a mind. But the teenager just looked back blankly, holding the windowsill sides to avoid falling out, but leaning out all the same. Leaning far forward, with that blonde, lanky hair falling around that round face. Next page. Yeah, kinda, well, I knew from last night. Shane could feel his hair rising slightly, or his blood fizzing cold under his skin. He could never be sure which it was, but it was not a comfortable feeling. Look, kid, what games are you playing with me? He muttered in a sort of growl almost. This is kind of like a dream feel because I feel like in real life you would just ignore somebody. You just keep moving. I'm not, the teenager protested. Come on, believe me. My brothers didn't believe me either. They said I was crazy. Well, can you blame them? Shane repeated that as soon as he said it. Oh, regretted it as soon as he said it. He shouldn't be talking to this kid. He didn't need trouble. The teenager narrowed those big eyes. Yeah, I can, 'cause it's true. I did so know you were coming, and if my brothers were here, I'd bring 'em over and they'd feel like fools, 'cause here you are. Well, bring 'em out then, Shane said. He shook his head and closed his eyes. Shut up, Shane. But when he thought that he could hear Jack's voice in his head, shut up, Shane, and he got hot with anger. Alright, it's 20 minutes, so I'm gonna stop. There's a Jack in this story too, huh? I wonder if it's the same Jack from Kink Farm. I guess we'll see. Alright, good night, everybody.